2, 1. It always gives me like a bar, which is currently loading, and I don't know exactly when the live kicks in. We could be live right now. It might take a few more seconds.
I don't think anybody watches the
the very beginning. If you are watching the very beginning, welcome everyone to the Prepper Trifecta live stream. Yeah, it looks like you caught it. So we are live now. Welcome everyone to the Prepper Trifecta. I'm not going to call it the bifecta anymore.
Yeah.
That was poorly received. Yeah, just a little gay. So yeah, it's back. It might just be the two of us though tonight. We'll see. How's everything up on there? Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Things are good here. It's been wonderful weather. A little bit of rain the other day. Working on the garden. Working on the coop. We got about I don't know, over 30 chickens anyways. And
now those are off-site though, right? You don't have those where you at your residence, correct?
Yes, that's right. I've got multiple locations.
So how does that work? You got to run over there a couple times a day? Are you splitting the burden with someone else or what?
We've got it divvied up. The buddy of mine that he's kind of he's like a pimp basically. So I'm not joking. I mean this with like a complete sincere respect. He's got a lot of girlfriends. He actually has a lot of different girls, and they all know about it. And that's just the arrangement he has. And he's a really, really cool dude. So it's like between me, and the reason I'm mentioning that is it's between myself and him and any number of his girls. Because they're like, yeah, I'll help out, you know.
That's funny.
So, yeah, just, you know, taking care of the, yeah, it's hilarious. But we haven't ramped up, gotten to that production yet because they are just starting to lay eggs. I think it's more August, September. We got to get the coops ready and then be there more on a daily basis.
That's awesome. So and you said you have like 30?
Yeah, yeah.
How many eggs do you eat on a regular basis? Because that'll add up quick, man. You could be getting anywhere from 15 to almost 30 eggs a day.
Right, and you know we can touch on this with respect to preparedness in that it's a renewable food source. It's a high quality protein food source. The reason I wanted 30 is first off, half are just going to him and he can do whatever he wants between him and his girls. And my ultimate goal is just to get a dozen a day, roughly.
You should be pretty close, especially depending on what the breed of hen is. I had some that were not known as like great layers, and I had about 4 back in Florida, and I would still be getting 2 to 4 eggs a day. You know what I mean? 2 or 3 usually.
Sure.
So I mean, if you have good layers, you would definitely be getting around 12 out of 30 of your half of 30.
Yeah, and I was thinking too and you're into working out. I'm into working out. Of the egg whites as well. So I've heard that instead of the 3 eggs is equivalent to 10 egg whites.
Okay.
So if you want to experiment, remove the cholesterol half the week or whatever, because I eat eggs every single day, and you can put the egg whites right into the protein, shake, or whatever it is, and that was the main objective, was a healthy renewable food source. So it's just for eggs too. We're not.
That's awesome.
Killing them or anything like that. So.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed when I had my hens was that when I went to go crack the eggshell, it was noticeably thicker and harder than the commercially bought eggs. Like if you ever have to go back, they'll just feel like they'll crumple in your hand from nothing. They're so unhealthy. And the color was totally different, like deep orange compared to like a pale yellow from the store-bought ones. Like you can literally see and feel the difference in quality just from looking at them.
Absolutely. And I, to the audience that's out there right now, I'd highly recommend experimenting, getting into this now. I've got into the gardening, into, obviously the food production. We got some rabbits as well. And, I'm not off grid. I'm not where I want to be necessarily, like practically right now, but it's nice to have some contacts. If you have somebody that's off grid, or if you have somebody that's relatively close that can have chickens or whatever, why not?
Right.
Yeah,
that's great. And they can eat anything, literally almost anything. So in an emergency situation, even if you didn't have a direct food source, you can feed them bugs, you can feed them leftovers from your food, scraps of vegetables and stuff like that, and they'll peck around and eat insects in the yard and everything. So
yes, that's just it. And I give them a nice, like a rice, flaxseed, tomato mix. Sometimes I'll give them some various meals. But end game plan is self-reliance, and one of the keys of self-reliance is sustainable food production. So the coronavirus or no coronavirus, I mean, for the audience, it's just a good thing to get into. And even if you're not into eggs, it's a great bartering item too. with, you know, maybe, I don't know, the baker lives up the road, you get a loaf of bread every other day, you swap some eggs. You know.
And also they're great because like back in the day, you wouldn't refrigerate them. You know, you could just set them in a basket and they'll last actually kind of a long time compared to what people might think.
Yeah.
So, and you could use them for feeding your pets and like a dog food or something. There's all sorts of stuff you can do with them. So.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. Yep. And even with the quality, I mean, if everybody eats eggs, I'm going to gamble and think that, you know, 90% of the audience right now eats eggs on a regular basis. Just as you were suggesting, the health component of a free range egg compared to some bird that's all skittish. And
crammed into a cage, all sickly, never sees the sunlight. It's just sad, actually, but yeah, it's.
Yeah. What kind of quality egg are you getting there?
Yeah, really.
The magnesium level, you know, or whatever.
Right.
Micronutrient level. So that's, if there was an area of preps that I've been focusing on, it's been food sustainability and gardening in the last few weeks. Yeah, it's neat too. I got my first eggplants. Well, I got the plant. The plant's been growing for a couple of months, but it's actually like the purple part is popping out, which is cool. So, and it's oddly enough, I'm finding this stuff. Like I'm like, yes, like I'm excited. You know?
It's very, very rewarding because you feel like you just created free stuff out of nothing, basically.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I grew some eggplants in the small aquaponics system that I had back in Florida.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
How big did they get?
They didn't get too big, maybe like a little 6-inch one. You know what I mean?
That's okay.
But yeah, nothing too crazy. It was getting to be too warm for them when I did it, I think, but it still responded pretty well.
I can't, warm as in like it was just too hot outside.
Yeah, it was pretty hot, I think. Yeah, it wasn't probably the best time of year for them.
Yeah, I know. Like certain plants obviously thrive in different environments, and I can't for the life of me. I've been trying since this virus started. I can't grow spinach. It gets a little big, and then it stunts the, I don't know.
Maybe soil acidity or something. Like maybe it's the wrong pH or something like that. Because I was having good luck with the leafy greens.
Yes.
Yeah, they would grow like really well in aquaponics.
I'm gonna give me 1 second. Speaking of quality soil, I got something to show the audience here. They might get a kick out of.
The one thing I had trouble with was broccoli. It grew really well, but it was just insanely attacked by pests, by bugs and things. And in an aquaponics system, you can't use pesticides. So.
All right. So
what do we got?
Originally for food, but I got to tell you, from a psychological standpoint, explaining this to Christy the other day, it's nice to. I got nobody out here, Eric. I'm all alone, buddy.
Oh no.
So.
Oh.
Got this guy, and we have a snuggle time every morning. I call it snuggle time with Bunny. Anyways, this guy's Moo Moo. That's what I call him. And yeah, it's just my guy. Whoa.
Don't like the wire.
Doesn't like being picked up like that. But especially with one hand. Yeah. But yeah, it's good. He runs out here. I give him, just gave him a radish 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, they chew that stuff up.
He just does his thing, right?
You can't let your chickens in the garden though, or else they'll just eat everything. They love like grass. They'll destroy every shred of vegetation that you would give them access to. Just peck it away. And really, they'll just eat everything.
Well, we've been lucky. My buddy's got a dog, and they go out, they do their thing. The huge garden we have over there is off quite a ways. I've got a garden here as well. But the dog kind of keeps them in order. They do their thing. We've had some issues though. Raccoon gone in there, killed a couple actually. We had a hawk take one, like right from the sky. They're just hanging out. Just came down with.
Yeah. Yep. They'll just grab them. There's not much that doesn't eat chickens out there. Sometimes do you have any roosters? Because sometimes the roosters will do a pretty good job of protecting from smaller things. They can't do much about a raccoon or something, but.
Yeah, we're there. We do have some roosters.
Kill snakes and stuff sometimes.
Yeah, they jump up. It's a typical alpha male role. They jump up and they'll defend the chicks, which is really kind of cool. So we have some roosters. I am concerned though when we get into the production, the laying production, if he's picking the eggs and his girlfriends are picking the eggs and I'm there. It's just that one time could throw me off where maybe I'm not there for 5 days or 10 days or something. I go to pick up the eggs and somebody forgot one. And it got
fertilized.
I don't know what the proper terminology
is.
Fertilized, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I go to eat my, I go to eat it and crack it open. There's like a half embryo.
I don't think that I forgot what, like once you take it away from like, yeah, so at 5 days or something, I'm not sure how big of an embryo would be in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly once you removed it from there, the process would stop. But yeah, that would be pretty gross.
Long and the short of it, that's
Yeah.
really my only concern with the rooster.
Yeah, you can always crack the eggs into like a bowl or something first before putting them into the pan in case there's something weird like that going on. Because if you're just like cracking egg after egg and one of them has like a writhing embryo in it, then your whole thing is messed up. Whereas if you crack them individually, look at it, then you can dump it into the.
Yeah, but if it's scrambled, then maybe you get it in there with some cheese and it just sort of disappears.
Yeah, right.
That half second where you see it, you can play plausible deniability.
Caleb asked me how my scorpion farm is going out here in Vegas. I actually like scorpions. I think they're pretty cool. Obviously, don't want to get bit by one or stung, I guess. But I have yet to see a single scorpion out here. I have seen an absolutely insane amount of giant black widows, but I haven't seen a single scorpion yet. There's black widows everywhere in my backyard. Thank you, Caleb. Appreciate it. Free Moo, he says. That reminds me. There was this very early internet website from years ago, probably 20 years ago, called Free Toby. Have you ever heard about that?
No.
It was this guy found a rabbit, like a kind of juvenile rabbit from these local landscapers were clearing a lot and they accidentally killed the mother, and one of the babies was alive, so he kept the rabbit and he was raising it. But he was like, I'm gonna raise this rabbit and plump it up and then eventually eat it unless I get a $50,000. And so he was selling T-shirts called like Save Toby, and the website was called Save Toby. And he would keep there was a bar of how much money he had, and he'd post new recipes. And as he got closer to the deadline, like if I don't get $50,000 by this amount of time, I'm gonna eat this rabbit. Yeah.
That's genius.
I don't know whatever happened. I'm assuming he got it.
That's the next question. I mean,
Right.
whenever it happened. Wow, that's absolutely
Save
genius.
Toby. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Well, Moomoo's not gonna, Moomoo's a pet, and that's it. It's not gonna. I'm not gonna make a stew out of him or anything like that.
Yeah.
And he gets more AC than I put the AC on here for him. He's, he gets more AC than me. But anyways, listen, if you're just joining us, my name's Che with Prepper Logic. We have Eric from obviously the Lord Humongous channel. We're both preppers, and we're both part of this weekly Trifecta live. I guess you call us a vodcast, for lack of a better term. We just get caught up to date on how we're both seeing how things are going with respect to the coronavirus all over the world. Any sort of news and tidbit. We felt like we were a little bit out of place last week because people said, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I'm like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, what's interesting here is, and I think I mentioned this briefly last week, is they're starting to roll back the openings and actually be more restrictive here in Las Vegas because the cases have spiked. But everywhere we're seeing that cases with no reference to how many tests are being done, what the case fatality rate is, the overall mortality rate. So cases in and of itself as a metric doesn't tell you everything you need to know, but everyone's freaking out that there's higher cases, and so they're starting to slowly clamp down again, which is frustrating.
And Christy, this girl I'm crazy about in California, she was saying, so sorry, Evil Blonde, if you heard that. She was saying that it's mandatory to have masks right across the US now. It is a policy that they've implemented, and I want to know what the repercussions are if you don't wear it, because there's no actual laws or fine. Do you know anything about that, Eric?
Yeah, they're out here, at least I can speak for Nevada. It's a directive, so it carries, to some extent, it carries force of law, but there hasn't been any penalties really enumerated or written out for what would happen if you don't as an individual. What they've been doing is leaning heavily on the businesses for not enforcing it. So threatening to shut down businesses, fines, things like that. So as an individual, because there's also like a series of exemptions, like if you're homeless, you don't have to wear it. If you have a medical condition that would make it difficult to wear the mask or to take it on and off, you don't have to wear it. If different things like that. But they have been, so there really is no penalties as an individual if you're just like, I refuse to wear a mask. But you will be getting denied from businesses, and they say, hey, you can't come in, you have to wear a mask, that sort of thing. So But as of right now, there's no penalty directly for individuals.
Right. It's more, we're going to put pressure on, we're going to give incentive for businesses to do it if we put pressure on them. What's your personal feeling on it? Has it changed since last week in terms of the?
No, like I said, I think that, if you're talking about masks specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, there's definitely, I think it makes a difference of like, if you could Thanos snap your fingers and everyone has a mask on and has perfect adoption and perfect use, they're not touching it all the time, not taking it on and off. I think that would definitely make a difference for the transmission of a virus like this. Might not make a huge difference, but I think it would slow the rate to some extent. The problem is when you add in how people actually wear the masks and all these various loopholes that they have. Like, you walk into a restaurant, you have to wear it while you're walking in. Then you don't have to wear it while you're sitting at the table or eating or drinking, things like that, that just really, there's too many. Then the homeless people don't have to wear it. There's all people who just choose not to wear them. So it really isn't going to make much of a difference, I think, in the way that it actually, real world, how it's going down. So I think it's kind of pointless feel-good measure for the most part.
Right. Yeah. And there's disproportionate number of the population that are adamant about not wearing it. They regardless of what their beliefs are.
Right.
Or there's also a subset of people that just, they don't believe the virus is real. They think there's some sort of ulterior agenda, or they're just not, maybe it's real, but they're not taking it seriously. There's multiple factors. People don't wear masks properly, or they may wear it properly, they don't wash their hands, or,
Right.
X, Y, Z, a whole bunch of different things.
And like I mentioned before, I think with the nature of how easily this virus spreads, how it's probably not going anywhere, like it's going to be around like a regular flu, I think that the focus should always have been on guarding the people who are likely to be affected most negatively, not the whole population. Like, if you have people who would really be at risk from dying from this thing, they need to do certain things to protect themselves, or at least the country needs to do certain things to protect them, not just have everyone kind of blanket, this is how we deal with it, and everyone's treated the same. Even a healthy, in shape 25-year-old versus someone who's morbidly obese, has diabetes, has a respiratory illness, and is 75 or something like that. Like, there's no way that the prescriptive things you would do should be the same for those two groups. This doesn't make any sense.
Yep. Totally agree. Excuse me, I got the sniffles here.
Any comments on the new U.S. quarter with a bat on the reverse side? I have not heard about that. A quarter with a bat on it? Maybe Batman's real. That's all I got to say.
And don't look at me, man.
Yeah, it's a U.S. quarter.
There is a lot of.
It's got a loony. It's got a loony on it.
Yeah, loon. we got a moose on our quarter. We've got we got some cool coins. You heard anything about the coin shortages? I
have heard about that, and I believe it's supposed to be related to U.S. mint production due to targeted shutdowns for coronavirus-related concerns, like people testing positive or whatever. So the actual mints themselves haven't been producing as many coins. That's from what I understand it. That's the issue. Short-term thing. But a lot of people think it could be related to them attempting to move to a cashless society, and I mean maybe. But coins weren't really the big thing with that anyway. If you're gonna have to get rid of actual cash.
Yeah, there's a bit of a flag going off in my head, because I know that the Federal Reserve was, if you want to put it in perspective, they've printed off millions of dollars for the powers that be, the higher ups. They can print paper money. Why can't they print coins? Right? Is the productions that's so different that it's okay?
It's more expensive.
Is okay.
But also, when people talk about the Fed print, when they talk about the Fed printing money, they're not talking about literally creating paper currency, because they're just creating the dollars digitally. Only something like 2 to 4% of the money supply is ever actually created as physical currency.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
And that's based mostly on seasonal demand, things like that. It's not really like we always make this much of it. It just depends on how much they feel needs to be represented by physical currency.
Good point. Okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
So,
it's all part of the same jacked up system.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, all caps, please, in the comments section. Caleb, thanks for that $5 free moo.
Appreciate it.
I'm assuming you thought I was going to eat it at some time, or unless you mean like to literally free the rabbit and put it out into the wild. I don't think you would get too far. Here, I got a question from Desolator Magic. It's for you.
How is it not on the books as a law that let people with antibodies indicating that they already had it can do anything they want, work anywhere, and not wear masks. Yeah, I mean, that would obviously be something that would make sense. If you can show antibodies that show that you've had it, you would therefore presumably have some kind of immunity to it. But that's not, first of all, it's not necessarily the case, because as we know with the regular flu, that if there's some slight mutation, you may be able to get another strain of it. Maybe we've even seen some evidence to suggest that you might be able to get the same strain again, like later on. That's what some of the Chris Martins and stuff had mentioned early on. I think that was at least possible. So while that makes sense, that at least right now, like if you've had it within the past few weeks or few months, you're probably not going to get it within the next few months. It's not guaranteed that you wouldn't be able to still spread it. So that's the idea, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the card I'm playing when we're talking about reinfection. It's all these unknowns. So as somebody that's into preparedness, I'm playing the I don't know card. People see other people with masks and they think, oh, you're succumbing or supplicating to a system. You're living in fear. This is the first stage of New World Order. Maybe that's the case with some people, but we're also neglecting the fact that, maybe we don't know what this virus is. We believe there's something out there. We don't know, as Eric just said, there's a potential for reinfection. Who's to say that's not going to be 2 to 3 times worse? We don't know. So because we don't know, they're on the side of precaution. Doesn't mean that we're, living in fear.
Right. And I also think that it's possible, from how I understand it, that you could theoretically have the antibodies show up before you've actually totally defeated the virus in your own system. Like once you've started the process of fighting it off, you could have the antibodies present, test positive for the antibodies, but still be contagious, still actively have the virus. So just having the antibodies doesn't mean that you're not able to spread it, like I was saying. So
yes, yeah, exactly. One thing I wanted to mention too, maybe we can bring it up on your channel, your side, because for whatever reason, anyway, the video is always choppy whenever I share it. We can grab that clip of the St. Louis couple for people that haven't seen it before we get into that, though.
Because that's actually what that's why I titled this illegal self-defense, I think, because I'm assuming that's what you're referring to. Is they've actually they were issued a search warrant.
That's right. Yeah.
To take and seize that weapon, I guess it was in that incident. So I really do seriously feel that they're going to, if they have any competent representation, which they're lawyers, I assume they will, that they'll get off from that charge. But it just shows that they're going to come after people for self-defense, even in a situation that I think is pretty blatant self-defense. They didn't actually pop any shots off or do anything particularly egregious when it comes to like brandishing or whatever. It's all private property. It's a huge mob of people that were allegedly literally saying they're going to kill them and stuff like that, physically broken in. So if you're not justified in pulling a weapon at that point,
Here's the thing. Yes, absolutely agree. Bang on. They're on their property. They're doing their own thing. It wasn't day one of a protest. This has been going on for some time now, where people have died. There's one guy that had the sword defending his business. I don't know what he did with what his business is with the sword, but if he had a gun, maybe his outcome would have been a little bit better. There's a guy defending his business with a sword, and a mob of BLM people beat the crap out of this guy, so much so to death. So I think it's McCloskey's his name.
McCloskey, I think, something like that. Yeah, McCloskey.
Good Scottish name, British name.
Yeah.
We got these incidents that have happened in the past week where people have died defending their property. So I'm all on his side. I have to be. The angry mob of people. What are they doing? What was the mob doing at the time? They're pissed and they're going to the mayor's house. It's not like they were, handing out poppies.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely outrageous. But like I said, I don't think that they should have any actual risk of getting convicted. But who knows? I mean, it depends. When the state really starts to lean and throw all its resources against you, it can be tough.
It could be one of these things too, where it was, I believe the prosecutor's name was Gardner, and you can tell that she's definitely a lefty just looking at her. That it sometimes we know it's not going to go anywhere. What are they going to charge him with? It's going to be some legal battle, and he's going to get his AR-15 back eventually. But from the court of public opinion, or the bunch of the pitchfork and torch people out there, I think maybe they needed to do something so they
They want to show that like, oh, we're just not going to let people get away with this, even if they
Yeah.
know that it's not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
They kind of want to show like, hey, look, we sent it, we charged them. What do you want? Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. But just lunacy.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Portland riots? 45 days now. It comes from 01.
I've got
Name?
I've got a few friends who live in Portland. From what I can tell, it's not too widespread. Portland's been a hive of scum and villainy in that respect for a while now. It's just a bunch of hippies that want to riot. And every time I'm out there, I never see a crowd of people that I don't feel like I could take on the whole group of them single-handedly. A bunch of like noodle-armed soy boys and
You
everything.
and me had our,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. So they definitely doesn't seem like too scary of a group, but yeah, with unrest like that and willingness to smash up places, like I don't think it's necessarily going to get any better for a while. So don't know what else to say about it.
Well, I'll give you my 30-second 2 cents, to the audience. I'm baffled as a Canadian or just as a human being how people in a Western, in a G20 country or G7 country, we'll say, the public was allowed to loot, take over a police station and burn down some things without the government coming in with some sort of, the National Guard. I'm really puzzled about
But
that.
these people get their guns seized, and literally they let the police themselves get run out of their actual headquarter building or whatever in this area, and just people literally do whatever they want for weeks
with no repercussions.
No repercussions. Yeah, outrageous.
Just like, oh, this is what they did. Okay, like I'm baffled. Why aren't just get the military in and somebody's not listening, you smack them out, you put zip ties on them, you throw them in the back of the van.
Which is what they would do with any other violation, no matter how petty. If you start pushing back, they would escalate until they've overwhelmed you, no matter what it took.
Yes. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
If you had your grass was too long and you refused the payment, then you refused to go to court, and then they came to rescue and you like barred yourself in, they just would not let it go. They would eventually show up with a tank and 50 officers if that's what it took.
Right.
It wouldn't
be it wouldn't be 20 SWAT guys and 12 hours in, they'd say, okay.
Right. Oh, well, I guess he's not coming out. All right, let's go home. No, they would burn your house down and drag you out if they needed to. Petty. Well, here's an interesting idea, something that is probably an interesting point for preppers. Is Evil Blonde One said, where was it? I lost her quote here. The real question is why the couple only had 2 guns. So we don't necessarily know that they only had 2 guns. You can really only use 1 gun at a time. Obviously we're assuming that if they had better guns, the wife wouldn't have come out with like a tiny little pistol, like a Walther PPS or whatever it was that she had.
No, Stallone. Didn't he? Cobra, he had 2 guns, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Cobra's an awesome movie, by the way.
Yes, correct.
Nick Plissken had 2 guns. So you can have multiple, like maybe 1 or 2 guns per person, but if you had like a sidearm in your rifle, but you really can't use more than one gun simultaneously unless you're going to shoot like that, which I don't recommend. You can carry more than 1 gun, but yeah. But so having 50 guns isn't necessarily that much of an advantage over someone who has 1 or 2 guns, with the exception of backups. But in terms of national engagement, you have other factors are more likely to be something that you should focus on. More ammo, body armor, other types of gear, other types of defense options, different types of cover and stuff like that. So just getting a ton more guns isn't necessarily going to change your capabilities much.
Well, it's funny because there's actually a movement of
and I'm saying this as someone who owns a lot of guns. So
sure. Yeah. There's
I'm not against it for sure.
There's a movement that suggests they didn't even have guns to begin with. I know it's like odd enough. I've actually got a photo here. I want to share it with you.
Okay.
It's we get the name right, McCloskey's.
McCloskey, yeah.
McCloskey. Do you think it's Scottish? What is that?
Sounds like it. At least Scottish descent or something like that.
Yeah,
McCloskey. Duncan McCloskey of the Clan McCloskey.
So this is I actually put this on my Facebook page, and it's with the McCloskeys, and we don't know these days. I mean, there's just so many different.
So you're saying someone gave them a gun or something?
No, but they didn't have guns in this one particular photo. There's all these different angles and arguments to suggest, well, maybe it wasn't really a gun. Maybe it was something else. Let me share the screen. Hopefully you've given me share. Oh, host disabled shared screen.
God. All right, here we go. Just a second. Allow participants to share screen. All right, should be good now.
Yeah, and I've got to use this other computer because I'm on my streaming on
No
my
worries.
phone, and here they are.
Hasn't showed up yet.
Yeah. I
Yeah, Evil Blonde 1 got the Highlander reference at least. Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, so maybe it was a deep fake that they actually had guns at all. They were just there for a live performance.
That's right. We don't know, do we? Yeah, that's
you can't be wielding that axe at the crowd.
Well, that's where Ted Nugent's probably
yeah, right.
On the right path, because he's got firearms that are rifles, like built in, or excuse me, like guitar. He's got one
with
guitar.
A rifle built in. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, as Radio K says, an untrained person can have 50 guns and do nothing, but a well-trained person can have one and do more damage. Yeah, we'd always see, anytime you have any sort of like competitive stuff, you have people who are like, oh, well, if I had that gun, I could do really well. And then you'd see a good person can really do well with the crappiest, most basic, they'll do better with the good stuff. They can still perform with the entry level.
Yes.
So don't ever think you need the highest level gear to do well. Obviously, quality equipment helps, but it's the skills that are really what you need. Mark
Olson, does Canada have any castle defense laws? So castle defense, for the people that know, is
castle doctrine.
Yeah, which is, this is my home, I can defend it at whatever means necessary. No, I don't think we do. There's been a couple of cases where, the most recent one, there's trespassers with snowmobile machines, and the guy, the farmer didn't know that he was being filmed. One of the snowmobilers had like a GoPro on his helmet.
Oh yeah.
And I could be off on parts of this story, but my understanding was he's like, get that, F off my property, and shooting a couple of rounds in the air, and the RCMP just decimated him with everything they got. Unfortunately, it's the opinion of most people that I speak with that are into firearms, law-abiding firearms owners. They feel that they're unjustly targeted by the federal government, namely the RCMP specifically, as they tend to have a left-winging bias or agenda. So I've been told. Notice how I worded that very carefully.
Right.
So no, we don't. SHTF, that's a different story. And one thing I like to share with people, you don't be stupid. Don't start making cocktails that can explode and all sorts of other stuff that these other idiot preppers are out there, the 0.5% of the preppers out there. It's one thing to have containers of chemicals that are isolated, you know what I mean? Separated, right, with the information up here. If you need to make something.
Right. Just have the materials necessary versus making something that would be illegal and then storing it illegally and just hoping that you don't get caught.
You want to be compliant. You want to be compliant across the board. I mean, the only thing law enforcement or CSIS or the CIA or whatever agency, I don't give a. The only thing they're ever going to have on somebody like me is traffic tickets. That's it. That's it. I might get caught, doing 10 over in the next 5 years, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah. It's too easy. Obviously it might change as they get more draconian with the laws, but it's, for the most part, it's too easy to avoid this stuff that it's just, you're putting yourself in an unnecessary position if you're going to get busted for some of this stuff,
and you guys, just think about the castle law. You guys had something in the States that are not too. I read about this. 3 burglars, 2 were shot and killed. The others in critical. Do you remember hearing something about that in the last week?
Sounds familiar, yeah.
The sheriff, or at least law enforcement official, I loved it. It was amazing. He was like, yep, we had the homeowner. It was a home invasion. The homeowner killed 2 of them. He injured the 3rd one.
Right.
And the homeowner was cleared. He was like given the green light.
Luckily that happens pretty frequently, especially if you're in like a small town in rural America or something. It's accepted. And then the law supports you. Not every state, I believe, is like a castle doctrine state, but for the most part, it's pretty
amazing,
widespread, and that's great to know that the local law enforcement in those situations is not necessarily just automatically gonna, because there's situations that have happened in the UK where like 50 freaking like home invaders will bust in and the guy will grab like a kitchen knife or even some other tool or like a legally owned shotgun and shoot them when they're like running at him with a knife saying I'm gonna kill you or all this other stuff, and then they end up going to jail. It's just outrageous.
Yeah, it's, and same thing here with Canada. So it was really refreshing to see that interview with the copper.
which is good. Yeah.
Well, William was saying it was in Tampa, and traffic tickets and rabbit abduction.
Here it's Captain Ned says, I'm not a big Second Amendment guy, but she was brandishing. You need, what does it say? Yeah, I mean, brandishing is specific to when you don't have what I'll call probable cause. I mean, brandishing, it would be like an irresponsible pointing, or there's absolutely, in every state in the country, at least in the US, you have the right to defend yourself if you fear for your life or grievous bodily harm. That includes using lethal force, certainly includes pointing a weapon at someone. And you can see that from police officers as well. They point their weapons at people all the time, you know, and just pointing your weapon at someone doesn't make you guilty of breaking the brandishing law if it's a self-defense situation. You don't have to shoot your gun for it to be a lawful self-defense use of a firearm that would otherwise be illegal. Like if I'm concealing carrying my firearm and the clerk at the gas station doesn't give me my change right or whatever, and I pull my gun out and point it at him, that would be illegal, you know? But if a guy picks up a bat and it's like, I'm gonna kill you, and I point my gun at him and he runs away and I don't end up having to shoot him, I wasn't brandishing my firearm in that sense, like legally speaking. You know what I mean? So just because you're pointing the gun at someone doesn't mean that you're guilty of brandishing. What I would have done differently if I were them is I would try to avoid pointing it at them if at all possible, simply because it just makes it less likely that you'll have legal issues. Same with trigger or finger on the trigger.
Yeah,
try to keep it off until the last possible second and have it like at a low ready position that you can bring up really quick. Same with a pistol. You know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily point, especially in a situation like a crowd like that where you don't really have a specific target identified. You know, you're going to have to move anyway. You know what I mean? I would start with like a low ready position if at all possible, just to avoid that. But the point stands, just pointing a gun at someone in a situation where you fear for your life is not brandishing.
No, I guess if there's one argument that the left has is it would be the pointing, the finger on the trigger,
right,
and the pointing and the crazed look that Hamburglar had there when she's just staring at everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Because she was literally a cough away from pulling the trigger. I agree, you know, and maybe there would have been a completely different outcome if he had his AR-15 on a strap and he's just standing at his house and just laughing with his wife. That would have been enough of a deterrent for most people, I think. You know, so, I'm gonna grab a beverage out of the freezer. I'll be right back.
Here you go. I'll read the local definition for brandishing for Nevada. It says that drawing or brandishing a weapon is a crime in Nevada if all of the following conditions are met. The weapon is a deadly weapon. The drawing or brandishing of the weapon occurs in the presence of at least 2 other people. That's interesting. And the weapon is drawn, brandished, or exhibited in a rude, angry, or threatening manner. So first of all, you would have to be all these. I think obviously those apply depending on what your the definition of threatening is. But again, if it's self-defense situation, then that's not going to apply. It says defenses against drawing, self-defense. Self-defense in Nevada permits people to fight back if they reasonably believe they or someone else face immediate bodily harm or death. A defense attorney can show the defendant drew a deadly weapon and he threatened away in a reasonable attempt to protect him or herself. The criminal charges could be dropped. Obviously, that's sort of an affirmative defense if you can show that you were acting reasonably, what a reasonable person would consider self-defense. I don't think there's any way you could convince me or a normal person that a reasonable person wouldn't have been a little bit afraid for their safety in that situation. You know what I mean? That the McCloskeys were in. Regardless of whether the people actually said, I'm going to kill you or not, certainly if they did, like the Mr. McCloskey had said that he saw at least one person have magazines, like full magazines, hitting them together saying, we're going to kill you. So even without that, though, an angry mob that physically bursts through a physical barrier and is deep on your property, yelling and screaming and stuff, I think police would have their weapons drawn. If you did that at their police station, if you burst in through the gate and yelling and screaming, you don't think you'd get a few guns pointed at you? Give me a break. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Brandishing. Get out of here with brandishing. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I'm not a lawyer. Take that information for entertainment purposes only.
Read it here a second ago. It was Mark. It says ethical preparedness. It's got several videos on legalities. That he is in the legal profession. That's what we'll say we've had him on before. Maybe we should have him back on. We can entertain this topic more clearly. Yeah, there's not a lot of hope. I think what's weird to me is the McCloskys, the McCloonies, or whatever you call them. They almost seem to be the poster couple of the first side of the conservatives looking at this situation, this insanity, this lunacy, this BLM movement, and going, "Hey, we don't want any part of it. We're standing up, and this is now we've got to have some degree of force." For sure,
Well, that's
there's
the
other
interesting
people
thing is I don't even necessarily know that they're particularly conservative. I think that they were like they might actually be liberals if I'm not mistaken,
really.
and had supported like these certain causes in the past as well. And they currently even were actually active cases where had clients who were it was like a police brutality case, stuff like that. So it's pretty funny. They just happen to be wealthy, wealthy white people. So
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't surprise me if the left is eating itself. But it just, and he is a personal injury lawyer. That is, he's gone out of his way to say that he's represented African American people.
Captain Ned said the gate is not the front door to their house. It's not, but that's irrelevant to whether you feel fear for your life or not. It would make a difference if you're talking about castle doctrine, because for those who don't know what it is, a castle doctrine, generally speaking, is that if someone is illegally in your house, that alone is enough reason to fear for your life. Whether or not they have a weapon, whether or not they say anything or appear physically intimidating, just the fact that they've broken into your house means, legally speaking, you have reason to fear for your life. So if you come downstairs and there's someone in your house in the middle of the night illegally, even if they're unarmed or whatever, you have reason to fear for your life and could blow them away. Yes, that doesn't apply to your property, but that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about castle doctrine. They didn't shoot them. We're talking about this whether they have enough reason to fear for life that pointing a weapon at a crowd of angry people that broke in would not be considered brandishing. And I certainly think it is.
Yeah.
And I think police would have been trained to point their weapon at people in that situation. And you could easily get an expert witness to testify that they would have done the same.
Same song and dance as any other scenario that we see with respect to the left side is going to, if it's against BLM, they're going to paint it in a dark light. If it supports BLM, then they're heroes. So it doesn't really matter what the scenario is. If it kind of comes back down to that being the main topic at the time. So.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. As in Mark in LA says, castle doctrine not if you're fear for your life or serious bodily injury. Lethal use of force is legal. Yeah, there is no place in the United States that you're not allowed to use lethal force in defense of your life or someone else's. There's just different things about like whether you have to try and leave first. Like some states have a duty to retreat, they call it. That if you use lethal force and they show, well, you could have just left, then you can get charged. But if you have no other choice but to use self-defense or lethal force in self-defense, that goes anywhere in the country. You can defend your own life.
Yeah, well, it's something I guess you'd want to know the laws based on the state that you live in, because
for sure.
2 steps away from this sort of thing happening well, not at your door personally, but anything's possible.
All of ours, yeah, all of ours.
I'm kind of grateful.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, Canada, we're not seeing this lunacy, and I mean most peppers too. They're just they're like watching everything that's going on there, and it's batshit crazy, man. Some of the stuff that's happening in the States right now.
Yeah,
it's very entertaining.
It's wild stuff.
Very interested about this election. What's your feeling on it?
Like I said, I think that at this point, I do think Trump will win. I think there's going to be some pretty wild unrest, regardless of which way it goes. But certainly, if he does win again, it just continues to get worse, I think. Like I mentioned before, I don't think that there's too many people that are legitimately undecided. They're not like, yeah, Biden or Trump. I just can't make up my mind. It would come down to whether they're just gonna vote at all or not. Right. Are they a Trump voter who's just not feeling it and isn't going to go, or are they a Biden voter who's just isn't feeling it and are going to go or not? But one thing I have seen is that apparently in these so-called battleground states, the new registration seems to be in support of conservatives / Republicans. More of them are registering.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I think it definitely comes down to like Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan / Wisconsin, a few of those, which, like I said, a lot of blue collar blue collar liberals, you know, in those states, union auto workers and stuff like that, who aren't necessarily these 53 gender leftists, you know, they're just Democrats, but they're the ones who are being victimized by all these riots and everything.
54 genders, not 53.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. I'm going to get canceled now.
We've got a law here in Canada. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but
Yeah.
have you heard about this law that we're required to address
Oh, to
people?
say, yeah. That was just something like Jordan Peterson and everything had been kind of railing against.
That was his line in the sand. That's where he just went. That's what made him famous, was opposing that.
Right.
It's very bizarre, and it's funny too that if this virus gets more serious, or if it gets more, if we had an EMP or something else happens that was really, really devastating to us socially, nobody's going to give a shit about your pronoun. All these antics and all these different various movements that are supporting the left wing's sort of feeling ideology and narratives are just going to disappear. So everybody will be focusing on survival.
Here's an interesting question being brought up. Zach says that disregarding the legal and moral perspective, from a strategic perspective, McCloskey's played it poorly. They came out to meet the threat when they should have taken defensive positions. But then Mark Olson says, I disagree, Zach. At that point, they needed disability, and their visible possession of a means of defense stopped the mob. So here we have two points of thought here, a possible decision to be made. When you have a mob out there, you show your force, show them everything you have, lay your cards on the table in the hope that that's enough to scare them off, or, you know, at a higher risk to yourself, you are out there exposing yourself, but they also the risk of having a confrontation at all probably goes down, versus do you basically hide and just wait for them to actually do something and then have a better chance of surviving it, but more likely to have to physically do something because they don't know that you're prepared to fight back. What's your thoughts on that?
It's a difficult window. If a black guy walks up the Black Lives Matter, I should be more politically correct here. If a member of society, a part of the BLM movement, walked up the driveway, there'd have to be some more of a threat, I think. You could just shoot him in the head. You know? Or maybe you could in some states.
That's part of it, is that you're always going to be put in that marginal situation. You know, what if they run up there and they're still unarmed and they start smashing your windows in because they don't know you're sitting there with a gun? What are you doing? At some point, you're going to have to make your presence known before just opening fire, probably. So you could do that from a defensive position. That makes some sense.
Yeah, I think I'm with the latter, the second suggestion, which is to make it presence, have your presence known. If you're in an ambush position, we're not in a war. It's a bunch of people walking down the street that want to yell at the mayor. You know, it was the wrong street, apparently. The mayor didn't live down there. Maybe throw a couple of bricks in windows. And, you know, that was kind of about it, I think. That was my impression.
Yeah, I mean, you can do a hybrid situation which is probably what I would do, where I would make my presence known initially, probably physically show myself, announce like, hey, you better get off this property. We will defend ourselves, and then take up a defensive position. So they know you're there, they know you're armed, but then you're physically have some cover at least.
I think I would have been more relaxed. Like Mark, was it? I keep on getting this guy's name wrong. McCloskey, the McC's, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
He was very almost defiant, yelling, communicating, what are you doing, blah, 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 blah. And you could see the look in her eyes too. It was very crazed. If they were just cool, they just sat back and had a, you know, hey, you know, hey.
Yeah, like, hey, this is private property, guys. Let's move it along, kind of thing.
Just had a big smile and just, you know, that's probably the approach I would have taken, because the urgency or scared, feared mentality that they projected sort of fed into the crowd a bit, I think. But if they were just cool, hey, what's that guy doing? Oh, he's just got his firearm over his shoulder, standing on his driveway. He's cool. He's just sitting there. I think that would have affected the outcome. The third, or a third, would have been to embrace the movements and do something like really bizarre, like get like a pink clip-on in your hair, put on some tight jeans,
put on your pussy hat and everything.
Put on your pussy hat and just
Black
pretend
Lives Matter. Yeah.
Black Lives Matter. And you live there and you're just like so.
They just come out and be like, "Yo, you guys didn't tell me there was a march today." let me go get my shoes. We'll go. Let's go. And then like we'll lead them off your property kind of thing.
That's right. Yeah. And they would.
Yeah, that's kind of like the things you'd come up with for the unethical coronavirus methods.
Yeah, yeah.
So you could do the crazy route and just strip naked and run out of your house covered in feces and see what.
I'll tell you, you could do that. I'd rather dress up like a lefty.
Right.
And,
Get that. You could use the same tutu and outfit that you had from that video. You can multi-purpose. Yeah.
You could run out naked in feces, and then I'll dress up like with the pussy hat, and then it would just be like a double whammy.
They're just like, what the hell is this place? Let's get out of here. Like a clown car, all these insane people keep coming out of the house.
Yeah, that's another one too. Complete psychological disruption. Just dress up like clowns.
Right. Start doing something totally just like a non sequitur, totally incongruent. Doesn't have to do with defying them or supporting them. Just come out like, and they're like, what the fuck? Like they're not gonna shoot you. If you just come out and start making a balloon animal, like, hey, doing like lame ass magic tricks and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Here's your puppy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, see, there are
non-violent,
non-violent remedies to these sorts of situations.
Right.
You didn't have to bring out an AR-15.
Right.
There are ways we can beat them with humor. Let me share these two memes. And
I am memeless this week, man. Last week was good, and then I didn't find any this week. It's just weird. The meme gods giveth and taketh away.
Mine aren't good. They're not. Actually, I've got one. It's great, but it's so bad. I'm gonna email it to you, Eric.
Okay. You it's too spicy.
It is. You pretend you found it on the net and then show it next week. I showed it to.
Well, I don't want to show it if you don't want to show it.
I'll send it to you after.
Yeah, just send it to me later.
I text my mom. She's usually got a good sense of humor, but I sent it. She's like, "Oh no, don't."
Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's not good. Delete it.
Yeah, that sounds like a good one.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
Your practical preparedness says there is times for gray man and time for hard targeting. I think they should have made their presence known, but then faded back a bit, so strength of disposition couldn't be discerned. Yeah, I agree, and also like. That's a good point. There never is going to be one answer. You should always show with overwhelming hard force or always try to be gray man. You know, it depends so much on everything that's going on, what you want to do. You have to be ready to be flexible and be able to do both. You be ready and able to go either way with it. Because so many things can be diffused by, like you're saying, just being all chummy and acting like you're not upset by the situation versus, but you also don't want to be incapable of acting quickly with violence if that's necessary. You got to really be able to be ready to do both.
And that's it. And that's why I find there's a big limitation with. I hate to say it, but and not with you specifically, but some of these people that have a. How can I move this sound here? Have a military security background. They've only got one focus: security. We're coming in with guns. That's it.
That's the tool that they know, so that's what they would use no matter what. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry if you hear an echo in the background.
Just a little bit. It's not too bad.
I'm gonna try and get this through quick. My memes here, my two memes. They're not even related to the coronavirus. Just because you can crochet doesn't mean good.
That is disturbing. That's like some Buffalo Bill level shit right there.
Yeah, and then of course our friend from what movie was that?
The Goonies.
The Goonies, yeah. Laughs and Democrats.
What's the top say? Oh, that's just it. Just laugh. I can't see the whole image at once.
Oh, you can't? Okay.
If that's it, just says laughs and Democrat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. And he's like,
yeah, my bad. That was it. There was nothing on the top. It was just generic laughing and Democrat.
See, Desolator Magic says Eric would stop the protesters solely with his epic hair. Yeah. Yeah. That happened to me when I had my hair long, like shoulder length, like total surfer bro hair. When I'd gotten out of the military, I grew it out for a couple of years. I would get people coming up to me and like just saying stuff, like men and women alike. It was definitely weird. And we were at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios back in Florida.
Hold on. A guy? Okay, I don't. What kind of guy goes up to another guy?
That's what I mean. That's what the story is about. It's really weird. And this
I like
guy
it,
comes
yeah.
up. He's a little sauced, you know, not totally obliterated, but he was like, "Bro," and I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I like your hair. You got mad flow." And I didn't get like gay vibes at all. I was just like, "Thanks."
Yeah.
And then I was telling the guys I was with, I was like, "Did you see that?" And like my girlfriend was like, "It's not that weird. Girls compliment each other on their hair all the time." And I'm like, "Guys don't." That never happens. I was like, "That's never happened to me before." I was like, "It's fucking weird."
Yeah, that's a little gay, but
Well, it is. But yeah, it was,
at least it sounded like he did it in the most non-gay way.
yeah, he did it in the most non-gay way possible, like a surfer bro, like, "Yeah, bro,
Yeah,
mad,
dude.
mad flow." But he secretly wanted to run his fingers through it.
Right. Next time you see him, it's like, man, you work out your ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Man. Not gay.
Yeah, not the gay way.
I used to have long hair too, like really long.
Yeah.
Guys never, I know, that's just gay. No, whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with it. But girls would compliment me all the time.
Yeah, I would get girls come all the time because my hair. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but it's pretty nice, especially when it's long. It's healthy. It's thick, and especially for my age, the fact that I even have it all is a good thing.
You're trying to fish a compliment out of me? What's going on here?
No, I just mean in general. I'll get people like coming up to me and.
Well, that's true. There's a lot of guys that are, they've got the island going. And
yeah, exactly.
I feel sorry for them. You see them in their 20s. I got a buddy. He's in his 20s. He went. The whole thing's gone, and he's got one of these heads that you couldn't shave it and do the Xavier sort of thing.
Right.
He doesn't have the right style head for it, so he's stuck with this. Yeah.
See, that's no good because I'm lucky because my head. I used to have it not shaved like thick razor shaved, but like buzzed for the military a few times. And my head is weirdly shaved. I don't think I look good at all with a totally shaved head. So here's what I can show you a picture of me with my long hair. For those who haven't seen it. Yeah. There you go. Here's me on the salt flats with my surfer bro hair back in the day. There.
All right. Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome, everyone. Thank me for my service.
There we go. We need another super chat here.
Yeah, right. So they start rolling in now. Now they're gonna start rolling in.
Need more photos of Eric. It's
on
actually,
my OnlyFans. You can get more.
There's
Instead of the Patreon, I'll start an OnlyFans for you guys.
There's something strategic about sign up with Patreon, get more photos, right? In your bathing suit.
Goofy grape,
like that,
yeah.
right?
My grape was looking terrible.
But even from a security perspective, it's always obviously better to have shorter hair because there's all sorts of
you get it grabbed, you get lice or whatever, and I've been thinking in any sort of because I was like working on my brakes the other day, and even just this hair, I was just pushing it out of my way, And when it was long, I would have to do straight up man bun and all sorts of stuff. So if it was a shit the fan scenario, it's coming off, man. It's gone. Yeah. It goes back too quickly and everything.
Well, chicks dig it. I think chicks dig guys with longer hair, as opposed to.
Yeah, they seem to. A lot of them do. It was very polarizing, though. Some of the women were. Yeah, right. Some of the women were totally against the man bun. They're just,
yeah.
Couldn't do it.
Whatever. I don't know. I don't like it flaking around my ears, but I think
it
must be a slow news week. We've been talking about hair for the last.
Exactly. That's what you get, man. Sorry. I am as God made me. What do you want?
How was the trifecta? It was good. We saw an old photo.
Yeah, right.
Hair.
It's great flow. Talked about stuff.
Yes. Well, I think it's just about that time.
Yeah. Went by quick. Talk about frivolous stuff. Goes by quick.
Yes, it was good.
We probably have Denab might be back next week. I've talked with Prepper Princess about possibly having her on here. For you guys haven't checked out her channel, you should go check it out. JJ will be back when he's back. Still in the process of moving, fixing it. You can check out his channel. He's having a lot of fixing up around his place. Still putting out content though occasionally, which is cool. So he'll be back eventually. So yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a weekly powwow, exchanging ideas, Canadian perspective, American perspective. I wonder if we should reach out to some of the people that I've dissed in the past, maybe like Prepared Mind or
Yeah.
Mind or whatever that.
Yeah, to see what get them to get their perspective or something. See if
Yeah, I don't
Canadian.
know if they would-
You know, it's interesting because we've talked about Canadian prepper before and how most of us tend to have a positive view of him with the caveat that he tends to go a little overboard in the doom and gloom sometimes. And he actually mentioned that himself in his last video that he just has a propensity to do that. So,
Sorry, has propensity to
just focus on like the worst case scenario, doom and gloom type stuff.
He's admitted to being kind of fear mongering or
Yeah,
whatever.
but not purposefully fear mongering, but just that's his focus. You know, like his mind goes to the what if scenarios and the worst case stuff, which to some extent, as preppers, all of our minds do. You know, and then we just have to try to temper that with our knowledge of what would really realistic.
Yeah, well, that's a fair statement. I would say you sort of have to in order to think outside of the box, and you have to put yourself in these sort of what if situations in order for you to calculate and quantify what it is you need to do or have or skills or knowledge, whatever, to defend from that perspective. Right. So it's a what if. I don't say game to put it lightly. It's a what if the whole spectrum could be. What if this? What if an EMP? Well, what do you do without water? What do you do for, you know?
Yeah.
Endless questions. Endless what if questions.
Yeah. Right on. So appreciate you watching, everyone. Thanks for coming and tuning in as usual. Check out Prepper Logic channel. Stay tuned to the Lord Humongous channel, rulethewasteland.com. And we will see you guys soon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks, Eric.
Yep. Adios.
Adios.
I will stop my live stream.